Okay, so now that we've gone back and forth and we got everything set where we want, and we're going to actually start putting stuff on the page. So that's exciting. Sounds good. So we're going to start actually with our photo, I think because photo is the most important thing that's going to be on this entire page. So let's get our photo on there. So what we do is we select our photo box with our black arrow, hit Control D, or if you want to do the old-fashioned way, I think it's under File. It's under, yep, there it is, Place. Well, Place, Control D or Place. Should give you the same thing. So we go back to our COMM 208 workspace one, our Super Bowl materials. Okay, so which story are we going to lead with? We're actually going to lead with the gamer. In this case, we're imagining that it's the day or the night of the Super Bowl. We have to lead with the gamer the next day. So I really like this photo of Nick Foles catching the touchdown pass. I mean, it's kind of a defining play of the game. You don't usually see a quarterback in this situation. So we're going to hit Open. And it fits in there pretty good. Here's what it looks like in the regular size. It's a pretty cool photo. So zoom in quick, but you know what? I want it to be even bigger. So I'm going to make my text box a little bit smaller to give me some more room. Move my cut line down. And pull that down. Because remember what we were talking about is photos can never be too big until they're too big. So we want this photo bigger. So a couple of things. We moved all that stuff down. So now we're selected on it with the black arrow again. Okay, a couple of options how we can make this bigger. First thing, we go up here and we go up to this one right here, fill frame proportionally, which is going to pull that photo in the same aspect ratio so it's not stretched out. Because if you stretch out photos, I lose my mind. So click on that. All right, I think that works pretty good. You know what though? I want it even bigger. I want it more zoomed in as opposed to just where it is. So how do I do that? All right, well, first thing we gotta do is go over here to select our white arrow. Come over here and you see how that the yellow border pops up? That's the actual frame of the image beyond where our photo box goes. So I'm gonna click on it with our white arrow, come up here, and I'm gonna use my percentages to goose it a little bit, no pun intended for the Eagles. You see how it's getting bigger as I make this number bigger? All right, I like that. But now it's not in the right place. So I can either click on it and move it with my mouse. And if you click and drag, it should give you kind of the whole thing. You can kind of see it as watermarked there. And I'm going to make it even a little bit bigger. Because it's kind of like it's a big deal play. It's important. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to make this text box go down to like here. And I'll pull this down to here because now I can double dip on these guidelines. That's great. And I'm going to pull this down and make it even just a little bit bigger. I'm going to zoom out. That I like. I like that. I think that'll work. So my photo is king. So I got that on there. I like how that photo works. If you need to see that kind of stuff again, we're going to go over it again when we go with our second photo in a little bit. So now, my second most important thing is my headline. Now I know my story gives me a long headline. And notice I haven't put any text on the page yet because I don't want my page cluttered up with stuff just yet. I want to work first so I can think clearly first, and then I'm going to put my text on the page. So I know my story is the gamer about the Eagles winning. So I'm going to go with in reference to, you guys saw those Bud Light commercials that were on there where they say dilly dilly. Well, we're going to say Philly Philly. So that doesn't explain enough for what the story is. And you see how my Y's are reaching down onto my photo here. So we have a couple of things we got to do. We have to get this to fit. And then B, we're also going to have to put a subhead on to explain what we're saying with Philly Philly, which is fine. We're going to do that in just a second. First things first, let's get our sizing correct. So let's give it a W to see what we're working with here. Okay. So these little tails are hitting the thing here. And we got to get this headline to fit. So I'm going to do this a little bit quickly, but I'm going to talk you through it while we're doing it. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pull this photo down, the box itself, not the photo, the box. So make sure you have your black arrow selected and click on this top square and pull this down. Now the ball has gone away, but we're going to bring the ball back. So then we're going to pull this text box down. Again, pick it with your black arrow, move it down. This is just to move stuff out of the way so we can work with the headline. Then we're going to pull it all back up. So first things first, let's get this text box a little bit bigger so we can work inside of it. Then we double click inside of it or triple click inside of it just to make sure it's all selected. And I'm sorry, I did that a little quickly. So I made sure everything was selected. Then I went up to my point sizes here. And this is, since it's a Super Bowl, I think we can get away with a really big headline. So 129, that's pretty big. But I think we can get away with it because it's a Super Bowl. If it was another game, we might not make it that big. But you know that people are going to read that. And when we get this photo redone, we're going to have a nice, solid photo package for this. Okay? So we're going to zoom back in, and now we're going to reset our photo and all that stuff, and we're going to make it work. So we're going to bring this up. Now you see how it gives me a guideline here? I want to take advantage of that guideline because I like that spacing. All right, so I have the ball kind of cut off here, so I have to kind of work back and forth with this image a little bit. Maybe we bump the actual size of it down just a touch, kind of recenter it a little. You know what? I want the ball in there, though, so I'm going to hit the black arrow. And I see the cascade of events that's happening here, this domino effect of events while you have to try and get stuff done. That's why I don't want the text on here, because it's just going to get in the way for the time being. So I'm going to move this down, and I'm going to move this down again. I'm going to pull this a little bit lower. Okay, then I go back to my white arrow, and I select it again. I click and hold, and I'm going to, how about we go something like, move them around like there. All right, I think that works. I have enough space here, and actually, zooming out on it, I might have a little bit too much space here. Right, and what I'm talking about is right here. And these little kind of details really matter. I know it seems tedious, and it is, but they really make a big difference. So I'm going to move this up to the bottom of this. I'm going to hold down the shift button, hit down once. Now I'm going to take a look at it. Now that's working for me. But notice how many little adjustments I've had to make so far to make these things work. And that's the kind of stuff we're talking about here. We can't get lazy, and we can't get just like fling stuff around. We have to make it work. So I do the same thing with my cut line, and I readjust my text box, zoom back out. And there's going to be a lot of zooming in, look at it, zoom out, look at it, zoom in, look at it. I mean, because that's the way it works. So I think we have our headline set, we have our photo set, looking pretty good. Now we need to put a subhead on it, because Philly, Philly, even though it's a hilarious, great headline, doesn't really make any sense. It could be anything. So we have to put a subhead on it. So come up here and grab our subhead, move it into place. Okay. We grab our corner of our box, make it look like this. Now I see a lot of people, they don't line up their boxes on the guidelines. You have to line the boxes up on the guidelines. The guidelines are there specifically to help you with that. They maintain spacing. They make your life just so much easier. So now, sorry, I did that quickly. So I got my subhead adjusted. It's about the size I'm going to want it. I'm going to click in here until I have some of it selected. Then I hit Control A. I'm going to write Eagles in first Super Bowl by topping Patriots 41-33. Or was it 32? Well, I'll have to double check that. So obviously it doesn't all fit, so we'll drop it down to like 30 and see if it works. Okay, now we're talking. I misspelling in there. I'll clean that up. I think I'm going to get rid of first. I don't really need it because I want Super Bowl all on one page. Get rid of by. Put a comma here. Don't need an ing. I think that works. I'm going to bump my point size up just a little bit. Now there's this white space here that I want to try and fill. So how am I going to do that? Even I don't have the answer for that. I have to think about that for a little bit. What we might do is go Eagles, top Patriots, 2 win Super Bowl. Okay. So that fills my space, but I don't want Super Bowl broken up. So let's move a little bit, make sure we get Super Bowl. Okay, so you see how we have Patriots breaking now. We don't want that, so we're just going to enter just to put it on the next line. Didn't do what we wanted. So we've made a mistake. We have to back up. So we don't like any of this stuff. So we go Control and Z, and it backs all that stuff up. And then if we go too far, it's Shift Control Z, and that puts our stuff back. So let's see. Let's see. Eagles win not Super Bowl, Super Bowl over Patriots. Maybe 30, 28. That's a little small. How about soar to Super Bowl win over Patriots? Okay. Oh, sorry. It should be a regular break there. And we select it all. There we go. Now, we call this little white pocket in here. You see how it makes a little pocket in here? We call it trapped white space. You want to avoid it. In this case, I don't think we... and then what we can do to fix that is change win to victory. Eagles scored a Super Bowl victory over Patriots, 41-33. So you see how my thought process went through there is I got to fill it. I got to explain my headline, but I got to fill that little spot. 4 column or 4 deck subheads. Okay, that's going to be fine. Let's make sure our boxes are all fit in the right size. Let's zoom out, take a look. Philly, Eagles soar to Super Bowl victory over Patriots, 41-33. Works for me. Zoom back in. Take our byline, line it up, then do our shift down trick, down directional down, like it's our byline lined up, and pull our text box up, and do our text box, same thing, shift down arrow. Okay, now that's lined up, and then we have to make sure it lines up down here still. It does not, so we just got to line it back up with that. Perfect. Okay, so there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of little things one at a time. You're going to hear the dog freak out here, so we're going to edit this out. All right, so we're back. So we have our headline done, our subhead done, our byline, our photo. We haven't done our cut line yet, but we have it in place. So when we're ready to write our cut line, we can do that. So And actually, that's what we're going to do next. Before we still, if you notice, we still haven't done the text for the story on the page yet. We haven't done that yet. We don't need it yet. We're going to do our cut line next. So we take our black arrow and select our cut line package, and then we're going to zoom in on it. Okay, so grab our text tool. And obviously, Ben Myers didn't take this photo. So change to Associated Press. Now, how these credit lines are done is going to vary from paper to paper. Everybody's going to be a little bit different on how they do those. But we still have our text tool selected now, and we select the text of the cut line. So this is a cut line. It should be filled out as such as a cut line should be. That's obviously not the cut line we're going to want. So we have to write a new cut line. So not Mick, but Nick folds in a. Actually, we're going to actually change that. We're going to go Philadelphia Eagles. Oops, spell it right. Eagles quarterback Nick Foles pulls in a touchdown pass in the Eagles in over the New England Patriots in Super Bowl LII on Sunday, Feb 5, 2018. Every paper is going to do cut lines a little bit differently. Well, for the most part, the Associated Press does write their own cut lines. You can just copy and paste those cut lines in there. We don't have that luxury here because, you know, for our technology constraints. But, I mean, that's just a generic cut line. You can get a little bit fancier if you want, or you can just use whatever the photographer puts in there. But that at least gets our thing on there. Now, the one thing I did forget in here, and I have to go back to our text tool and add it in. We're going to have to put the score of the game in there, 41 to 33, because despite it doesn't matter how good this story is, people are going to read Philly, Philly, Eagles win. They're going to look at the photo and they're going to read the cut line for the most part, and then they're going to move on, which is frustrating, but that's just the way people work nowadays. So you're going to get as much information, just get a good amount of information in the cut line that people are going to read as well. In this case, it's a little generic, but that's okay. We're just practicing working through these things still. So now my headline's done, my subhead's done, my byline's done, my photo and cut line are done. I'm still not going to put text in here. I'm going to go down and I'm going to get my jump line done first. So this is going to lead people inside so they can read more about the story. So I'm going to make it like Eagles win, something like that. And it might be on page 2, it might be on a different page. For our purposes, we'll just leave it on page 2 for today. Okay, so now I have headline. And the more you do this, the more you'll just automatically click through these things in your head. But I'm just going to manually do them for now just to show you kind of how your mind has to start working in order to make sure these things are done. Headline's done, subhead's done, byline's done, photo's done, cut line's done, jump line is done. Okay, last thing I need is my text. All right, so I'm going to go back to here, go back to my folder here. Okay, open it up. It has our byline on it. We haven't done our byline yet when we get back there, so we're going to want to get back to that right away. Make sure it's the right story. Oh, looks like the right one. Control A just to select it all. Control C to copy it. Put it in our text box. Paste it in there. You guys have gotten this one pretty good so far. So then we click on here, we go Control A. We want to make sure it's formatted correctly. This is our formatting. So we do our little eyedropper trick. Bing. All right. So now it's formatted correctly. Good. So we go in here. Eagles, Foles persevere in soaring to Super Bowl title. Okay, we don't need that. So delete it. Next thing. Oh, Barry Wilner is our guy that wrote this. So we change my name out, or should have Ben's name out for Barry Wilner. Notice I haven't worked with the text other than formatting it just yet. And we're going to change out the Twitter handle to Associated Press. Now we're done with our byline. delete that out of there. I always delete the AP out of there. We already said it's from the AP. That's fine. Okay, so we have our first leg of text in there. Looks good. Now we have to get it underneath here, so that's why we drew our 3-column box. So we drew our 3-column box underneath, and this is why we do everything ahead of time before the text is on there, so it's easier to work with. So we come back over to our first column. We see this little red plus sign down here. Click on the plus sign, move it over. All right. So it automatically fills our 3 columns. It's a little hard to see because of all our guidelines and stuff here. But we have a nice little space here. It's what we want before our jump line. Let's zoom out, hit the W button. Looks pretty good. Looks almost exactly like what we want it to look like. Awesome. Perfect. So that's done. We're a quarter of the way home. Got all that done. So I'm going to pause here again. This is done. We might have to adjust it and make some moves and that kind of thing on it, but there's some changes that we're going to do. We're going to do another story. We're going to make another video, so then you can jump back and forth as needed. There you go. First story package done. Let's move on to the second one.